A D&D story from the Mad Reign of King Bartok. The saving, sacrifice, and coronation of Prince Nitwit. It had been a year since the adventurers found the tomb of the Sand Kings and released the human evil Drider. King Bartok. King Bartok, the now ruler of Pyramid City, the 24 gods and the land beyond, had waged war on all other races except human and orc. All other races were forced underground into the kingdom of Fractonia. Fractonia is a vast underground region full of water, large lily pads, and plenty of bullywugs. The leader of these bullywugs goes by the name of King Bulgar. King Bulgar right now is hosting a dinner with the adventurers and the last of the giants, a fire giant priest named Gragnok, the kobold queen Uzdril and her prince son Krizit, and the keeper of the Dragon Gate, a red dragon wormling named Henry Heffercorn. An argument has burst out at the table with King Bulgar not willing to lend his bullywug army to the cause of the war against King Bartok. Queen Uzdril was the acting commander of the army opposing King Bartok, and she has become the leader for all the races besides the bullywugs that were forced from their homes on the surface. Queen Uzdril, a very thin kobold, is dressed elegantly in a white dress, even though she is in a wheelchair after horrific injuries suffered during the war. Her son Krizit, sitting next to her, also shows his body scars on his body. Once his body was armored with beautiful gems of all colors. Now almost all those gems ripped off of his body, showing nothing but scars and battle wounds. Both of them are calling King Bulgar a coward and a craven. King Bulgar has accepted the proposal under one condition, that his brother, Prince Nitwit, a mutated troll of a bullywug, much larger than a 3-foot bullywug, is brought back home safe and unharmed. Prince Nitwit was afflicted with a bloodthirsty madness after wild magic resurrected King Bartok at the tomb of the Sand Kings. The adventurers are tasked with finding and bringing Prince Nitwit alive back to King Bulgar's castle. The adventurers include Perello the Dragonborn, Vigo the Barbarian, Mirab the Harrigan, Shess the Shapeshifter, and a newer member by the name of Axel, a mix of a dog and a human, a very old and forgetful creature. He replaced the shapeshifter me after Vigo was transformed into a giant scorpion and ripped me apart. That's a tale for a different time. They track Prince Nitwit to a rough and rowdy tavern not too far away from the castle, where they find the gigantic bullywug troll, Prince Nitwit, eating multiple kobolds whole. Before melee starts between the troll, Prince, and the brave adventurers, Axel offers the prince a bowl of soup. The prince surprisingly accepts. Instead of fighting, Axel and the prince grab a table, and they talk things out. After this magical conversation, the prince is no longer afflicted by madness. The prince returns with the adventurers to King Bulgar's castle. The king is relieved that the prince has been cured. He announces a splendid dinner that night. Dinner comes where there is laughter, drinking, and eating, but all the happiness must end when the keeper of the Dragon Gate stands up and says, "I know this is a joyous occasion, but we must act fast. We still need the 30 dragons from Tiamat's pit. There are 4 creatures of royalty here, Queen Uzdril and her son Prince Krizit, and King Bulgar and his brother Prince Nitwit. One must die, and the adventurers must deliver that soul to Tiamat for payment for having the dragons join our cause and our army." The royals start arguing amongst themselves again about who should be sacrificed. It is decided that the adventurers will pick the creature and sacrifice the creature as well. The decision was easy. Prince Nitwit had been running around for a year, murdering at least 3 or 4 kobolds a day in his madness. The prince is chosen, and he does try to run away, only to be captured, bound, and given his last supper before execution. The supper ends, and the deed must be done. Vigo lays the prince down on the banquet table. The prince looks at his brother, the king. The king looks the other way. Vigo takes out his great axe that he won from the great orc warrior Umta. He takes a swing and sinks into the prince's neck, but does not kill him. Perallo then steps in because he believes Vigo is making this a much messier process than needs to be. Perallo grabs his ruby-bladed knife and is about to plunge it into the prince, but his hand turns like he has no control over his hand. King Bulgar stands up and starts walking in what looks to be in a trance and walks right into Perallo's knife. The knife pokes a hole right through the king's throat. The banquet hall is stunned. The adventurers are stunned. That wasn't until a maid started pushing the adventurers toward the magic gate. Mirab managed to heal the prince with magic. Mirab then grabbed the crown that was recently on King Bulgar's head, and she puts it on Prince Nitwit's head. The adventurers and maid go through the portal to the spirit world, where they will find the undead god Tiamat. The maid shapeshifts into Shest, still wearing the maid's uniform. Shest looks at all the adventurers and says, "Worst sacrifice ever."